Today's guest is Alice, founder of More Muchness, a batch cooking service with a big heart and an even bigger story. Alice opens up about her experience with PMDD and ADHD, what it took to get a diagnosis, and how she's building her life with strength, softness, and a lot of self-awareness. This is an amazing conversation, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So, hi, Alice.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming onto this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoying the sunshine, I see, which I love.
Yes, it's my happy place. To try to absorb
It's
all of the vitamins.
Yeah, it makes such a difference. I'm struggling with hormones this week, and actually, I think my PMDD symptoms have reduced significantly because of the sun.
Oh
It's
my God,
crazy the difference
massively.
it
I
can make.
actually remember you talking about it on when you were interviewing somebody else, and I was like, the whole weather thing and nature thing is so accurate. I just feel like just even standing outside in the sun for like 5 minutes the first thing in the day, I just feel 100 times better.
Yeah, exactly. And so that kind of leads us on really nicely to the question that I ask everyone at the beginning of an
hmm
episode, because everyone seems to describe PMDD very differently. How would you describe PMDD?
So I would probably describe it as like it's like being forced to take a drug that you know doesn't agree with you, and you know that it's going to take you to this dark and terrifying place, potentially life-threatening place. But every month you've got to take it, and it gives you this out-of-body experience where you feel possessed and you just like lack control of everything. And you know you're going to, even if you feel good for 5 seconds, you're going to have the come down to follow, and you've just got to power through.
That is probably one of the best descriptions I've ever heard of PMDD. I've never heard it described like that, but it is just like, you know exactly what you're going to expect. You take it
Yeah.
anyway. The come down hits hard. Um, and yeah, it's an out of body experience, isn't it? So yeah, I love
Yeah,
that description
literally.
so much. I'm sure many people would resonate with that as well. Um, so you've got PMDD. Let's start right at the beginning. When did you first, I don't know, get that feeling that something just wasn't quite right? It wasn't just normal PMS, perhaps.
So I was on the Depo-Vira contraceptive injection for like a few years. So didn't really experience bad periods at all. Like my whole life, I've always been fine, really regular, really, just very typical PMS. And then it wasn't until like January 2023. So I just come off of the Depo-Vira injection, but I was in New Zealand visiting my little sister. And I was out there for like 6 months. And so it's obviously in a lot of very different environment. And I got my first period that I'd had, and obviously like, well, about 6 months. And I just basically just went absolutely mad. I was just so irritable and so not myself, just snapping all the time. My mum to come out to visit my sister at the same time, and they were both just like avoiding me like the plague because they were like, "What is going on
Wow.
with you?" So obviously, I just assumed it was because I'd just started getting periods again, and my hormones. I assumed that there was something hormonal, but I didn't think it was going to be like a permanent thing. I was like, it's obviously something I've just got to ride out. Um, and yeah, so that was kind of it. And it would come and go. And it wasn't until I got back to London that I started to notice that there was a pattern. And I was like, this is really weird. And I'd never heard of PMDD either. So I just kind of figured, it was just taking a really long time for my body to adapt to not being on anything. Um, and then, yeah, it basically got to the point where I was so depressed and I knew it was happening like pretty much to the day of ovulation. And I was noticing it wasn't going away until I had my period. And I was like, this is just bizarre. Um, and I was actually, but when I come back from New Zealand, I was actually staying with a friend and who is a journalist and like she was a writer, and she read this article about PMDD. And I guess it always happened to me in a very convenient time where it was just starting to be talked about by everybody. Um, and she was like, this sounds exactly like this PMDD thing. And she like sent me some articles and I went like hardcore deep read into everything and was like, oh my God, this like no, I don't even need to go. I wouldn't even need to go to a doctor. It was like, I have every single one of the symptoms that
Yeah.
it's saying happens. um, so yeah, I basically did what I'm assuming most people do, go to the doctor. Basically, they completely had no idea what I was talking about, just kind of dismissed it and said that I was just like, probably a bit depressed and blah, blah, blah. And just told me to go back onto contraception, which was the whole reason I'd come off it, is I didn't want to be on anything. So they're like, yeah, this is the only option that you have, is to go back onto contraception again. So yeah, it was just an absolute nightmare.
That's so difficult. So you'd realised it was PMDD, because I also realised I had PMDD by coming across an article, and like word for
Mm.
word that is what I was experiencing. So that was my discovery as well. But so you've discovered you've got PMDD through your own research, and then did you mention PMDD to the doctor and they just dismissed it completely?
Yeah, they literally looked at me in that sort of cliche thing of, oh, here's another person with a self-diagnosis.
Yeah.
um, and and I literally had written down on my phone every symptom I was experiencing, and I tried to show it to the doctor. They just kind of glanced at it, didn't even read it fully. We just kind of like, it was just like, oh, let's just medicate her and like get it over with, kind of a thing. That's how, yeah, as many people do, it just felt completely dismissed. I tried talking to friends about it, and that, everybody was just kind of like, oh, I get PMS too. Like, and just like, I was like, no, why is no one understanding? This is not, I've had PMS.
Yeah.
It isn't PMS. This is so much worse than that. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, the good, slightly happy part of this story was that when I was in New Zealand, I met my partner Cam, who after 6 weeks of dating was like, I'm going to move to London with you. We're going to be together. And it was like this lovely romantic
Oh,
thing. And all of this was happening to me in the period where he was like, I was waiting for him to come over to London. And so I was just, you can imagine, I was just like, oh my God, am I doing something insane? Like, do I even want to be with this person? Like, every time I was in my lows and my luteal phase, I was just like, this is horrifically crazy. What am I doing? And then would be fine again. And so bless him, had to like move over to this country he'd never been to before, living with people he didn't know, like just on a complete whim, me being the only person he had. And half of the time I was just like, don't touch me, don't look at me, like, get out of my
yeah.
space, and, it was just an absolute nightmare for him. And then kind of coming full circle, January 2024, I broke down to my dad on New Year's Eve, just being like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I can't take this anymore. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
And it was just like the first time anyone had actually taken it really seriously. And he was just like, that's not going to do. And he was like, you need to go back to the doctor and tell them this. So I went back and they just put me on antidepressants and were like, another drug, here you go.
Yeah.
Which, I guess in one sense I was like, okay, well, they clearly now are kind of accepting that I have PMDD or that this is something bigger. But I just went on the drug and basically had like mania for like the first 2 months. Completely insane. Like, I was so impulsive, so erratic. Just not PMDD as such. Like, I kind of like didn't feel sad, but I didn't feel anything. Like, I was completely numb. I was
Mm.
completely just it was just bizarre. It was just like a different kind of version of me that I didn't recognize, but I wasn't realizing it. And everybody around me was like, who the hell are you?
Wow.
um, and to the point that I had like this ridiculous argument with my partner and ended up like breaking up with him and making him like move out. Like, it was awful. And like, I put him through hell. And then, yeah, oh gosh, so many feelings. But yeah, it was really, really tough.
I'm
And
sorry.
thankfully, because he'd been there for my whole PMDD journey, when I started to kind of feel myself again, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what came over me. Like, I was just obviously a mistake. I love you. I want to be with you. He didn't make me feel bad. He didn't punish me. He just said, it's okay. Like, I know this isn't you. Like, I promised you I was here for you. I'm not going anywhere, kind of thing. He just basically hugged me and was like, I can see how hard this is for you. And it was like, oh, I can't believe I
Mm.
left this guy. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of the first big journey for me. That whole kind of, that was all in like 8
Amazing.
months, and it was just an absolute roller coaster. But at least it meant that my
Well,
doctor was finally taking me seriously, and I could be honest with my friends and family and not say, instead of being like, I think I have this thing, I was like, this is what I've got. This is what I need from you. And sort of just work as a team with the people around me and try and be a bit more vocal about when I was in a bad place and when I was in a good place.
yeah. Oh, Alice, just thank you so much for sharing that. Like, so many things that you mentioned I just resonated with, wanted to give you a big hug, wanted to cry with you. And
Mm.
I think people listening to this will be so grateful that you've been so honest, because we get it. We really get it. And it's so awful that you've had to experience that. I'm so glad that your dad and your partner have like responded so well, as they should, but they've responded so well and so kindly. And they know that that's not you, and they know that this thing takes over every month, and that's not your fault.
Mm.
And I'm just so glad you felt able to open up, especially to your dad on New Year's Eve, when you were in a time of crisis, because then that has led to you getting the help that maybe you don't necessarily need, may not be the right help for you, but you're starting to get taken seriously, and that, to be
Mm.
honest, is the key first step in getting the help that you need, because up until that point you weren't getting taken seriously. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm just really pleased that you opened up, and I hope that really inspires people to do the same. And even if it's not opening up to a family member or a partner, it's just connecting with somebody. It can be the PMDD project, it can be the PMDD community, just to say how you feel, because the way you're feeling isn't right, and you should not have to experience that month in, month out. And just going back to, and I feel your frustration with, you got prescribed antidepressants, which for some people, brilliant, but for yourself, it just wasn't right. And I can imagine you probably felt like they've just gone, right, take that on your bike. And you've not really been heard or seen as an individual.
Mm.
Um, and I know that you've mentioned before you've actually been diagnosed with ADHD as well. So I can imagine that probably came into play with some of the reactions as well. So, how did that come
Massively.
into the picture? And do you think maybe they were playing off each other at some points, the PMDD and the ADHD?
100%. I mean, so I've always known I had ADHD. I think everybody who knows me well thinks that I've had ADHD, but it never sort of debilitated me before. So I kind of just powered through. It was just very much the typical, you know, dealing with anxiety and little things like that that I would face, and that was okay. But it was only when I started getting PMDD that the ADHD became debilitating. So it it was bizarre, even to like not just in my luteal phase, but in my follicular as well. It was obviously because PMDD is so unstabilizing. It just like completely knocks you. Like, I think you've spoken about it before. It's just like you can do all of the things to put you in a really good healthy routine when you're all feeling great, and you'll be like, yes, I'm going to go to yoga, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to eat really well, and I'm going to get up at this time, and I'm going to check in with this friend. And then you get to your luteal phase and it's just like game over, and then you're completely
Mhm.
starting from the beginning again. So you only really get half the month to
Yeah.
feel like alive. So with the
Yeah.
ADHD, the symptoms that kind of overlapping, like things like exhaustion and being really easily overstimulated, and like a massive one for me is I feel really suffocated. Like I'm just like allergic to everybody. Um, and just the frustration is so intense, and obviously brain fog. So with the ADHD, all of those are amplified, and I just get to the point where I just completely break down. The other day, I burnt my toast and I started crying. Like, it was just like, just another thing. Just like felt like the world was over, which just, to someone who doesn't experience that, it probably thinks like, all right, a bit dramatic, like kind of like your life isn't that bad. You just burnt your toast. It's just like, but the way you feel feels like you just can't
Yeah.
cope. It just feels like I don't even have control over my limbs. And that is really terrifying. Like it's a really scary way to feel where you feel like you just you don't know your own thoughts. You don't know how to communicate with people properly. I'd be trying to be mid thought and I'm just so easily distracted. And so if you add that to so feeling like with PMDD, like you're so alone and you're so isolated and you can barely think straight. And then you add ADHD, which is making you feel um, totally smothered and overstimulated,
Mm.
and you've got so many things going through your head. So it's just like you've got all these things going on through your head, but your PMDD is like basically jumbling them all up. So you just can't even see what those things are. You just know you're feeling something and you don't know how to regulate if it's real or if it isn't, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
so it's obviously particularly bad during my luteal, but it's just an absolute nightmare. And then when I'm feeling good, my ADHD makes I'm almost like too good because I'm just like on a high and I'm just like, I get really, really impulsive, really, really, kind of a bit intense and probably quite irritating to a lot of people. Um, because I've gone from feeling so bad to so good. I mean, my partner and I have actually called it like my happy day because it's the day that my luteal phase ends, but I'm just like ridiculous. Like we kind of try and make a joke out of it to try and make things a bit more lighthearted. And I'm just so okay. Like I'm so happy. I'm like, I want to go out on the town and just like let my hair down
Yeah.
because I feel okay again. I feel like Alice is back. Um,
Yeah,
but
you feel like you're making up for
yeah,
lost time as well, don't you? So
a
then you're just going
hundred
a million
percent.
miles an hour, I can imagine. Yeah,
Yeah, which is
yeah. But
exhausting for
I,
anybody.
it's exhausting, but then, and like I do the exact same. I have probably a week and a half where I feel just lovely.
Yeah.
And I will try to do everything. I'll try and see everyone. I'll, put 110% effort into my relationship. You name it, I'll be
Mm.
doing it. And then that's amazing. But then I think, and I can imagine a lot of people with PMDD resonate with this, but then that means that I burn out harder when I go into the luteal phase. So
Yes.
it's so difficult trying to find that balance, isn't it?
I was curious actually if you were going to say that because I and I wonder if how many people do experience this is when I feel like if I do something, let's say you're in your luteal phase and you feel rubbish, but you've got something that actually can put you in a really good headspace. I don't know whether it's like, as an example, let's say it's your birthday and actually you've got everyone you care about surrounding you and you're like, actually, I think this is like what is going to keep me in a good mood because I'm surrounded by all of this positive energy. I find that when I let myself actually feel happy in my luteal phase, the next day I feel like I'm on a come down. It's like as if you've got your luteal phase, you're given like, you know, 10 happy points to spread out across your luteal phase. And if you use all of your 10 happy points in one day, you have nothing left for the following day and you just like are 10 times worse. Is that
Yes,
crazy?
that makes complete sense. I'm in luteal phase at the moment, and I had a couple of days ago where I felt good, suspiciously good.
Yeah.
And I thought, this can't be right. This is weird. But so then I jumped at it and I was like, okay, let's make the most of this feeling good. And I, went out, I left the house. Oh my God, can you imagine? Left the house and I had a really, really lovely time. But the next day, yeah, I was exhausted. And I think it's really hard because you get a slither of hope, I suppose, and you just jump at it. But that's not to say you shouldn't do that. It's just you've got to
Mm,
be mindful that you're still in the luteal phase and like you don't have the energy that you would normally have. Um,
mm.
so I suppose it's just being mindful of that. It's really hard. It's just really hard. Um, but yeah, no, I completely get that. You've worded that in the perfect way. And I suppose that kind of ties into my next question as well, sort of finding the good and sort of like what works for you. Because I know that you've tried a few
Yeah.
different treatments. You've talked about antidepressants, hormonal contraceptives. Can you tell us a little bit about what that journey's been like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm 100%, I think that if just to make it clear that if antidepressants work for you, then 100%, like, this is not an anti-medication thing. Obviously, there's no shame in taking something to make you feel better. The whole point is that you just feel yourself, right? But obviously my journey
Right.
that wasn't the case. It was making me feel less me and numb, and I'm a very empathetic person naturally, and antidepressants made me feel like I couldn't feel anything, which was
Mm.
terrifying because I didn't feel like I was myself. With the concept of pill, I did find, and the injection, I did find, I think a lot of people have this, I almost felt a bit angrier, a bit more short fused than usual, which again is not very characteristic of me unless I'm unless I'm in my luteal phase. Um, so now currently I'm not on any of either of those, but yeah, I kind of weaned off of the antidepressants, and now I do take Alvance for my ADHD, which has actually really helped with the PMDD symptoms as well. Um, because it just kind of clears the mind and kind of focuses on what's in front of you. So it's so much easier for me to do everyday tasks. It's so much easier for me to get up and be like, okay, this is what I've got to do today and get it done. So for things like days when you have to go to work, like for me personally, I'm a chef and which is self-employed role, and then also a nanny. So I don't really have the luxury to be like, you know what, I'm going to call in sick today, because that either means I don't get paid, or suddenly a family hasn't got anyone to pick up their kids from school. So
Yeah,
I have to get up. I have to do things. I don't have the choice to be like, I'm just going to have a nap and sleep this out. And the Elvance really did help with that. So definitely, if I would honestly suggest that people who are having both PMDD and ADHD try the medication, because it's also very easy. You can just take it and then stop taking it if you don't like it. It's not like a weaning on and weaning off thing.
okay.
Um, but it definitely, for me, really helps on like the bad days. Um, just to kind of be
That's
able
really
to focus.
That's really good to hear, though, and I'm sure that'll give people hope as well that you've found something that works for you.
Mm.
And that's not to say that, you're cured, but it's that this is the one thing that you've found that alleviates those symptoms the most and
Yeah,
gets you through those really tough days. So I'm so pleased to hear that. And maybe we can share some more information on what you're taking on our social media. But
for sure.
I also want to ask you a little bit more about your relationship as well, because you've mentioned Cam, is it? And how he's been amazing in supporting you, and clearly you have got a very open and honest communication style between you both, which massively
Mm.
helps. But I would love to know, have you got any tips for anybody listening who really struggles in their relationship? I think it's really common for people to struggle in relationships and spend 2 weeks going, I don't even love this person, I don't want to be with them, and
Mm.
then go back to thinking, I'm so in love with this person, what was I thinking? So do you have any tips? How have you got
For
through got,
sure.
got through those really tough months?
For sure. I mean, it's things like these things are often said. Um, and I think it's very rare. I feel like advice in relationships is always funny because it's completely depends on what kind of relationship you're in, what kind of person you are, if you're a secure attachment, or if you're an insecure, like all of these avoidant or whatever those are. um, it
Yeah.
completely depends on the dynamic of the relationship you're in, and how, I mean, elephant in the room is obviously if you don't feel like you can talk to your partner, you probably shouldn't be with them. But for
Yeah.
us, like communicating has been so important. Like there is literally no boundaries between us about what is okay to discuss with each other. He is my best friend. Talk to him like he's my best friend, and we make sure that we're completely honest and vulnerable about how we're feeling, even if that's going to be something that's difficult for the other person to hear. It's really, really, really important. Um, and what we need from the other person as well. So, sometimes, of course, we're only human. We'll sometimes have a bicker about something, and we kind of take a breath. We come back to each other. We give each other a hug, say, sorry, I love you. Okay, what did we do wrong? What just happened? Where did we mess up there in that conversation? And it might be, that and this still applies if I'm in my luteal or follicular. If I snap or if I start to get like angry and frustrated, because I can often feel like I'm being gaslit even if I'm not. Um, because I
Mm.
feel like everybody should be inside my head. Everybody should know that this is going to annoy me or this is going to frustrate me. But obviously, we're all human, and that isn't the case. And if I don't tell him, you know, to ease, like, to give me space because I'm feeling really suffocated today, how he's not going to know that. And he can't react. He knows now, like, if he reacts being like hurt by that and like, oh, you don't love me anymore, that's going to just make us both feel awful. And I have to be
Yeah.
like, okay, I love you, but right now this is what I need. Right now I need to be on my own. Right now I need to like be alone with my thoughts. And he's like, that's okay. Or he knows that like the mornings are really hard for me to get up and, get up and go. So, and he would normally gets up before me. So he makes sure like when I know I want to get up, I don't even set my alarm anymore. He comes up and with a cup of tea, sometimes like a piece of toast, and opens the blinds slightly, and that is my alarm clock, which sounds like, I'm living the
That's
life. But it's like he
gorgeous.
knows that that is the only way that I'm going to get up with like a positive
Yeah.
headspace and like, okay, I can do today, or if I've had a really, really bad day or a really difficult day and I'm feeling overstimulated, like my go-to is like a hot bath is basically my problem, my solution for everything is, have you tried a bath? Um, so I'll come home from work because I get home quite late, like 7:30, and he'll run me like a candlelit bath. Sometimes there'll be like a glass of wine there, my favorite show set up, like everything just like, oh, perfect. Like I feel like I'm at a spa.
God,
And it's
we
just like
all
those
need a cam
small,
in our lives.
I know, but it's like those are such small things, each of which, taking like 5-10 minutes out of his day. But then I'm just like obsessed with him the rest of the time because I'm just like, he's listening to me, like he's hearing what I'm saying. And don't get me wrong, I'm a good girlfriend too. I feed him, I do all the nice
Cool.
things too. But it is balanced. But yeah, I think just when you're trying to tell your partner what it is you need and they actually listen and they hear you and they actually do
Mm.
something about it. Like you would do that for your best friend, right? If like you had a best friend staying with you and they were like, "Oh, I've had a horrible day at work. All I want is a bath." The first thing I would do is be like,
Yeah.
"I'll run you one." So why is it not the same in relationships? I just don't get it. So, but um, yeah, I think that
Yeah, I think when you live
being a
together too,
team,
you sort of become, yeah, yeah, you sort of forget actually that you should be doing those things. You should be going out of your way. You should be like putting the energy and the effort into relationships as you would your best friend. I think people easily forget that. So it's really nice to
mm,
hear that you continue putting your energy into that.
yeah, no, definitely. I think that as long as if you face the world like there's one big battle that you're facing together and you're a team, nothing else feels that scary anymore. Like I know that if I'm being a dick, that as long as he knows that I love him, and and I think as well with the communication, once you have it, like even in my luteal, I do take a step. If he reacts the way I need him to react, I have the ability, and I get that kind of quiet mind again. I'm able to be like, I'm really sorry I snapped at you, or I
Mm.
recognize that I did that and that wasn't okay. I'm really sorry. And he just goes, honey, I know, like I know you're in your luteal, like I know that wasn't how you feel. Like it's okay. Like just like it's okay. You just need someone to be like, it's all right that you feel this way. I'm here. And I think in your luteal phase that is so important to have someone and it doesn't have to be a partner.
Yeah.
It can be your best friend or your housemate or your mum that you call up, and just someone to tell you like this is okay. Like I know that this how you're feeling. Um and that yeah.
Definitely. And it's someone seeing you as an individual as well, because I think, I might deal with PMDD very differently to how you might deal with it. There might be different triggers for us. So what works
Mm,
for me might not work for someone else. So someone might need the extra attention and the pampering and the TLC, and that works great, but I personally need space and I need no one to touch me. And so
mm,
it's your partner is actually recognizing what do you need as a person and taking the time
yeah.
to listen to your needs and to figure out how to meet those needs as well. I think is
Yeah.
key to keep that partnership going. that is key. It's really getting to know you and not just doing the generic things that he thinks are right for you. It's actually what works for you. So I think that's amazing.
100%.
So you've also been really honest about turning to substances as a way to cope or self-medicate. Can you talk a little bit about what was going on during that time?
Yeah. So this kind of links up a lot with the ADHD aspect of my experience because impulse control is a huge issue for those with ADHD. And obviously having that kind of when you're in your follicular as well, you think like you can conquer the world. Partying and sort of just overindulging and everything became a real issue for me. So I just never kind of knew when to stop. I never had that kind of self-control of, okay, you've probably had enough to drink. Or, I might go out with the ambition to just, have a quiet one, but all it took was like one person to be like, oh, do you want to do some drugs? Do you want to let's get really drunk? Like I wouldn't have the ability to be like, no, that sounds like a bad idea. So for a good while, I think maybe even for like a year, um, maybe just before I'd gone to New Zealand, that was definitely already an issue and like sort of that I didn't realize was definitely connected to ADHD. And then coming back when I felt awful, I just was trying to do anything and anything to numb how awful I felt. And even though it was a very short release, doing a line of coke on a night out would give me that extra confidence to be sociable, which I wasn't having in my luteal phase, or, you know, getting absolutely hammered would obviously make me way more fun and way more, oh, everyone's like, oh, that's the Alice we recognize, someone who's like last man standing, always up for a good time. But when actually internally I was feeling like I don't want to be here. And so I think that whole concept was very difficult for people to get their head around. And because I'm such a naturally kind of like bubbly, energetic person, for so long, even when I was talking to people about PMDD, they kind of just dismissed my PMDD to having a substance issue, which was really hard for me because that felt very like gaslighty. And they
Mm.
weren't really listening to me when I was like, no, there's definitely something deeper going on here. And that's my coping mechanism. It's not the cause, it's my idea of a solution. So it got really, really bad. And not even to the point of like addiction. I wouldn't even call it addiction because if I had to, it would be okay. I would be okay to stop, but it was just, I didn't care anymore. I just kind of like didn't care
Mm.
about myself or love myself. So I didn't really care that, I was like, oh, how about, well, oh no, I'm going to have a hangover. I was like, I already feel like death anyway, internally, which sounds very depressing, but, I'm sure a lot of people can connect with that feeling.
Yeah, the fact and what you said before, how, you're trying to mask how you're actually truly feeling and you're trying to live up to this persona that everyone expects you to be all the time. And you're already hating yourself, so you don't want everyone else to see that you're struggling as well. It's like you're a
Mm.
swan and actually like deep down you're like this. But if everyone else just sees this side, then you're fine and you can
Yeah.
you can you can carry on as normal. And so it makes sense that you would turn I understand why you would turn to that to avoid from people from seeing this other side to you
Yeah.
that you didn't even like in yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And I think especially when you're, on paper, it just sounds, it's like, well, that's just the most stupid thing ever. Why, if you're feeling awful, would you then like drink loads of alcohol? And like, when you know it's going to make you feel worse, like, how is anyone else supposed to help you if you're not helping yourself? That whole kind of that chestnut. Um, but it's so easy to tell that to somebody. But when you're actually going through it, it's just not that simple. And I think the only way I kind of got out of that was the wake up call when I had the antidepressants. If you think about it, this is one benefit from my manic experience is that was definitely rock bottom for me, where the impulse control was so extreme and
Mm.
was so close to losing everything that was important in my life. My friends were kind of didn't want to be around me. I was just becoming this negative energy instead of being the person that I know in my heart I am, the person you can call when you need them. And, you know, that's the person that I would want to people to identify me with. But um it became the person that's like, oh, is Alice okay? And I just hated that. I hated being pitied. I hated people being worried about me. And I didn't feel like I was anybody else's safe space. And that was a horrible thought. And so just trying to acknowledge that and take a step back from everything. And like we said, having my partner in my life and having that somebody that believed me and understood what I was going through meant that I had a safe space I could escape to that wasn't substance abuse. And it's now been like over a year since I've touched recreational drugs, and I don't miss it at all. It just goes to show I was using it as a crutch. I wasn't like dependent on it. It was just, something that was there for me, that was easy to access instead of me actually having to face what needed to be faced.
Yeah, because having to face that is really scary. It's really difficult, and you know that. But I think having that strength, and I suppose having the community around you to hold you up when you don't feel like you've got the strength,
Mm.
is amazing. And I'm so glad that we've talked about this, because I think it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. And I'm so glad that you've shared that and that you've overcome it as well, and that you actually look back and go, I only used that for as a crutch, like you said. Whereas now you've
Yeah,
found other ways to cope with it, because there are other ways to cope with it. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
no problem.
And I know that you've mentioned before that you someday would love to be a mum. How does
Hmm.
that feel then, in line with your PMDD struggles?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that absolutely terrifies me. Both Cam and I have all we've ever wanted as parents. Like, career, it's just like the bottom of my priority list. It's just all we've ever wanted is to be parents. And it's really nice that we're both on the same page as that. However, obviously it is a terrifying thought, because we don't know, there's still so much we don't know about PMDD, right? We don't know, is it genetic? We don't know um how long it's going to go on for, all of those things. And also, I think because of the name premenstrual dysphoria, we think that it's only menstrual related, as opposed to the actual reality that it's not being able to regulate the unbalance of your hormones, right? So that happens to us at pregnancy. So you're basically going to have like this insane surge of hormones when you're pregnant, and again when you've had a child, and you're going to have to be dealing with that. And so you're not having like 9 months free of PMDD. You're going to have probably the first trimester of absolute insane pregnancy hormones, and your body is going, I don't know how to deal with that. This wasn't on the cards. And so that is really
Mm.
scary. And I think for me, the most terrifying is not, is I can get my head around it being hard being pregnant, but it's how I'm going to be a mother if PMDD hits hard. Like the thought of me being like an absent mother, or feeling like I can't be around my child, or being disconnected, is absolutely terrifying to me. Especially because it's something that I've wanted for my whole life so badly. And I'm part of so many different PMDD groups and heard so many horror stories, and just like mothers reaching out on the group saying how they snapped at their kids for no reason, and like all of this stuff, and like how painful that was for them. Yeah, it's just, I think it's something that is also needs to be talked about so much more as well. It's just like being a parent, and if you can't even look after yourself during a luteal phase, how are you supposed to look after a child that needs you all the time? You can't I can say to Cam, I need some space. You can't say that to a 3-year-old. They're going to want to come into the bathroom with me. They're going to want to, you know, they're going to want my attention, and I have to prioritize them over myself. So yeah, it's just, I guess, trying to find the balance between looking after yourself as a mother to be the best for your child without isolating your child. If that, yeah, if that is clear. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's very scary.
it's a really tough. Yeah, I can imagine it's a really tough thing to navigate, and something that a lot of people with PMDD worry about when they're thinking about sort of starting a family. It's hard.
Mm.
I know my mum really struggled with her PMDD when I was growing up, but what I can say is I don't remember her. I don't remember her being PMDD. I've seen her PMDD when I'm
Oh, I didn't
older,
realize she
and
was,
I've
yeah.
remembered that. B Yeah, because I recognised it in her when I was old enough to recognise it, but when she was raising me, I don't remember significant times when she was really difficult, because I can imagine for her, she does remember those times, and it was really, really
Mm,
hard, and she has talked about things that you've talked about, how you really need to be present for your child and you don't want to be an absent mum. And they were her fears too, but I don't feel like she was absent. I don't feel like she wasn't present.
mm.
And I think we live so much in our heads as well when we're experiencing PMDD in the luteal phase, and think the absolute worst of ourselves.
Yeah,
And
the
just the
guilt.
fact that you want to be a great mum. Yeah, the guilt is it takes over completely. It's like a whole body experience. But I think the fact that you want to be a good mum means that you will do everything you can to make sure that you are a good mum.
Yeah,
And I think you've got it in you already. It's just how you, like you said, how do you balance those days? And how do you find that balance of self care and self love whilst also
yeah.
being the best mum you can be? And it
Mm,
works different. It looks
100%.
different for everyone, I suppose. But no, I don't doubt that it's a really difficult, it's a difficult road to navigate. And I'm sure many people sort of connect with what you've just said as well. But then also at the same time, you run a business as well, which I'd love to know more about. And you've got to juggle that. You've got to have your professional head on when you're at work, when
Yeah.
you're experiencing PMDD. How do you do that? How do you juggle your mental health whilst running a business?
Um, yeah, it's definitely a challenge. So yeah, I have my own cooking company called Muchness. So I do go to families' homes and I have multiple clients and I batch cook meals for them for the week. Um, and yeah, so it's literally a personal service. On the plus side of that is you build quite good relationships with your clients because you see them every week and you have your little chit chats. It's a bit like, if you're a barista in your relationship with your customers, you talk about everything. You sometimes you realize that actually some of your clients end up being knowing the most about you, right? So I try to be really open and honest with them. Um, so all of my clients know I have PMDD and ADHD. Um, and if I am having a difficult day or I've messed up, I make that clear. And they're obviously
Hmm.
super supportive of that. Um, the childcare aspect so I sort of have, yeah, I nanny part time just to kind of make sure that I've got a bit of security as well. And obviously I love kids. And I absolutely adore the family that I work with. And I'm actually very honest with the kids as well. So obviously they don't know
Okay.
what PMDD is, but I make sure that they do. So if I feel like I'm having a really bad day, kids respond best to emotions. So if I'm saying I'm feeling really sad today because of PMDD, and like they have a million questions and they want to ask about it, but you'd be so surprised how quickly a child's behavior will change if they know you're not okay. Like they could go from being, driving up the walls to being doing exactly what they're told, like quite quickly when they know that you're not all right. They're actually a lot more empathetic than they get credit for. Um, and yeah, I obviously talk to the parents about it as well a lot. So I think it kind of comes back to communication. And I appreciate that, if you work in like the corporate world, that might not be an option and it might be very unprofessional and inappropriate. But for someone for what I'm doing, being honest about where I'm at emotionally is kind of my only go-to, without me seeming like I'm just messing up. Like if I do make a mistake, I have to be like, sorry, I'm in my luteal phase and I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. So I'm really sorry if I'm a bit of a klutz today. Um, and it's actually become quite nice. Like the father of the kids I nanny has ADHD, and so actually we have a bit of banter about it. He's like, oh, I did the most ADHD thing today. So it's like, you can kind of connect on it and try and make light of it and kind of normalize it a bit so you just don't feel like you're an idiot. That's just to be completely
Mm.
honest. It's like I spend a lot of the time feeling like I'm really stupid, and that is a horrible way to feel. But having kind of
Yeah.
being justified and knowing you're not alone makes it so much easier to just go to work and enjoy it as well, because I don't have to hide who I am or how I'm feeling. I can just go to work and do my thing and do the best that I can and hope that, you know, I get through the day without messing up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It sounds
pretty
like
much
you've
it.
And you may not agree with this at all, especially when you're in the luteal phase, but it sounds like you've got control on your PMDD where you can say, "Look, this is what I've got. This isn't me. I am not defined by PMDD. I have got PMDD, and I'm gonna be open when it
100%.
I'm really struggling with it." And I think just being able to have it as this separate thing, separate separate part of you, and being open and honest and just going, yeah, I'm really struggling with it today is so raw and refreshing. And I
Mm.
think going back to, people with PMDD feeling guilt, feeling shame with struggling. I think even myself, like I find it hard to communicate when I'm feeling bad. When I'm in the luteal phase, I really find it hard to communicate. Where actually, when I'm not in the luteal
Just
phase, I
kind of
can
comes out as like
advocate and
gobbledygook.
sing and shout. Yeah, no, it's really hard. Yeah, but I can normally really express myself and how PMDD affects me when I'm not in the luteal. So to hear you doing that in such an honest way is so amazing to hear and really gives me hope as well and sort of motivates me to do the exact same.
Mm.
Because I think it's good to take control of it and to not let it define you either. So yeah, very inspiring. And I kind of want to end it by asking you if someone's listening to this right now and they are feeling how you felt before, what is happening to me? I can't do this anymore. Have you got any piece of advice for anyone listening to this right now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we've kind of given a lot of advice and so far anyway, but we're kind of to go back on the highlights of that is that you're not alone. The hard times will pass, and you just need to kind of prepare for your luteal phase in a way that works for you. Making sure, I think that's for me is
Yeah.
definitely the best advice I could have given to myself before is when you're feeling good, prepare for the worst. Um, so make sure your loved ones are aware of your cycle and you make sure that there you have the relaxing ways that you know will calm yourself, like near my baths, or if it's a little short walk, if
Mm.
you're up for it. Listening to a podcast as well, where I can just feel like I'm listening, just leaving my own mind, or calling a friend, and just not feeling guilty about letting yourself rest when it needs to. And I also try to like make up for lost time, which I mean we touched on, but just trying to be as productive as I can when I feel good and being a good friend when I have the ability to do so. So, when I'm in my follicular, obviously without overwhelming myself, I'm just like, if I know I've got a friend who's going through something, I'll take that opportunity when I'm feeling good to write it down and be like, make sure you call so and so or text this person and check in on that person. Because then when I go back into my luteal, I don't have guilt about that one thing. So, the less guilt that you can take on into your luteal, the better. And
Mm.
just trying to prepare as if imagine if like you're going into surgery and you're not going to be able to do anything for a few weeks, you're not going to be able to work as well, you're not going to be able to use your phone, just like or get out of bed. It's like, okay, what do I need to do? Like, what do I need to pack emotionally into my suitcase before I go into this?
Yeah.
And just by telling myself every day, I am strong and I can do this, and it's just another battle that we've got to face. And as you said, it doesn't define us.
Oh, Alice, thank you so much. Honestly, I'm coming away from this feeling lighter and just more positive and I'm stuck in the luteal. So thank you so much for that. And I can only imagine that other people
Oh,
listening will be feeling the same. Um, so thank you
I
so
hope
much.
so.
There's so much more I'd love to chat about, chat about with you, but we will save it for another time. And yeah, just thank you for coming on and enjoy the rest of your day.
No, thank you. Enjoy the sun.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.